B.
And what's up, O?
I'm just going to check the temperature.
Oh my god. What is this new temperature you like to check?
I like to check the temperature of the room.
COVID.
So we're checking because everyone checks their temperature for COVID, right? If you have a fever. So it's going to be an episode obviously on COVID. Introduce that was sly introduction there.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to check the temperature because what I feel for me personally is that like there's a lot of like new terminologies coming out when it comes to COVID.
Is there?
It's starting to freak me out. Like COVID.
I just stopped. Oh.
COVID unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm COVID unconscious because I just stopped.
COVID unconscious, but then the one I've heard lately is COVID guilt.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So I thought, let's just get into it. See what it's about. I'm curious. I need to know. So let's get into this.
All right. Cool.
All right.
I got that dish. Got that. I got that dish. Dish. I got that dish. I got that dish. That dish.
Hey y'all, it's Onika.
And it's your girl B.
And you are dishing with Dainty Dish. How you doing today, B?
I'm stressed.
You're not scratching and surviving.
I wanted to think of some other lyric to say, but I can't. God. I'm so stressed. I'm stressed. Like, if my eye could twitch.
How it feels to be stressed out.
I don't know what songs. It feels very 80-ish.
It's on Vogue.
Yeah, see, I felt very 80-ish.
I think it's on Vogue, but it's one of those girl groups. I really know how it feels to be.
How about you?
Stressed out.
You're obviously not stressed out.
Oh, hell no.
You're in a good mood?
I'm in an amazing... I have the red bow on, guys. This bow it's powerful. You don't, the listening audience doesn't see it, but start hitting up the gram, and you'll see our little videos that we post. So you'll see the big bow.
I'm a black knot. It's literally probably in the back of my.
She looks like olive oil, and I look like Minnie Mouse, basically.
I look like olive oil. Who's olive oil?
By the Sailor Man.
Oh, his Oman.
His Oman.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I could be olive.
Olive oil was a hot toddy.
I was about to say I could be olive.
She was svelte and tall, wore a red dress. Your favorite color, girl. Don't insult girl.
I could be her.
I could be black olive oil girl. And olive oil, that shit smooths your skin. And it's good at cooking. Girl,
listen.
That's your new nickname. Anyways, let me tell you about my week.
Oh, please enlighten me.
Because you can't share your week.
No, my week is muy caliente. It was spicy.
Super spicy.
Super spicy.
It's more than jalapeno.
I have a headache right now, so.
Ghost pepper spicy. Like ghost pepper. Like, can't talk about it, but too hot for TV. But my week, I want to shout out my office, my family, my CMHA Durham family.
Oh, yes.
For giving me the Excellence in Relationship Building Award this past week. I was not expecting it at all because I've literally only been there since October. But I'm proud of myself because I really feel like I'm making a difference as a peer support specialist. This is literally, I live, eat, and breathe mental health. Anyone who knows me knows that. So I'm glad that they could see that too. Mm-hmm. And they didn't let, my newness dictate whether or not, like, I would, receive recognition for what I've done so far. And there's so much more to go. I have so much more to give. And I'm really excited to just continue on this journey with CMHA Durham. So thank you guys.
Oh, so proud of you.
Thank you. It's a glass award.
Oh. Moving on up, are we? No more paper sheets.
I've been putting beside Daddy's plastic.
Paper sheets and pins no more, I tell you. We're talking glass.
Yeah, no more participation ribbons for me. Woo. Yeah, so that was my week. But you know what? COVID guilt. It's time for
Mustache. Oh, I completely missed that mark. Why did you get L extra with the V?
I was doing like an announcer.
But we don't.
No, but I tried something. I should have probably let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it.
This is what production meetings are for?
Yeah, okay, let's try it again.
Okay, alright, cool.
Sometimes you make a mistake.
Oh, that's alright. I'm a little stressed.
So I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. just
come in when I need to come in. Okay, cool. Let's do it again.
Okay,
I feel you.
It's time for the
newsflash.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that was a good one.
Yeah,
so we got a 3-part newsflash today. Yeah. We're keeping it a little bit shorter and sweeter, but
production meeting ran a little long.
Yeah.
So we're keeping it short and sweet.
So, but you know what? It's packed with all the juicy information that we need. Okay,
we're spilling that tea, guys. We're spilling that tea.
We're spilling it. So,
I'm muy caliente. I think I'm going through menopause or something. Like, it's just like
I make this comment every week, but now you wanna take it into consideration.
I think I might have to go to a doctor.
Early menopause is a little okay.
Whatever. I mean, do I want children? Though, like, who really knows? I'm okay with. I'm fine with it. If that's not
okay. So our first article comes from Vox. I don't know if I like Vox for their articles or the graphic that's their logo, but it could be both. So I just love their logo. If you know Vox, you know. You can't get away. So the article is entitled, you don't know it? I'll show it to you after. So the article is entitled, You Can't Get Away from the Idea That You're Just Lucky to Be Alive. So pandemic survivors' guilt may be pervasive. But it's hard to detect, leaving many struggling in silence. So this article was written this month by Catherine Harmon Courage. That's a beautiful last name. I love Courage is a beautiful last name. Sorry, I just had to say. So in this article, she speaks on a person named Lauren Nicholas. So Lauren Nicholas almost didn't survive the COVID-19 pandemic, but it wasn't the virus itself that nearly killed her. The 33-year-old struggled with severe symptoms after testing positive for the virus, combined with an overwhelming sense of guilt for still being alive while so many others were dying, nearly drove her to suicide at the end of March. That is a thought I didn't even think of. That would be a problem. So
honestly, when I was looking into just like what topic to choose, I knew I wanted to, because we don't talk about COVID a lot on the show
anymore. Yeah, we
were exhausted. We were done with it. At the end of the day, there's so much still left in the world to discuss, and that could really bring people some kind of relief from all the COVID talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of avoid it like the plague. But when I came across COVID guilt, it was because I was actually, we'll get into the vaccine as well, I was actually about to get my first dose of my vaccine, because as a peer support worker, I work in the mental health and addiction services department. So that's medical. And I'm in the community visiting my clients. So there's a high
safety first.
So I did get my first dose last week, and that's what got me thinking. Like, I'll express later on in the show what I went through and what I was feeling, but just the thought of like there's so many different types of COVID guilt that we're going to talk about that like you didn't even think
were things. We thought we just had the headache and the stress of COVID, getting COVID, quarantining. No, it goes beyond that. Apparently, we've entered a whole new level in the game, people. It's a whole new level in the game. So she goes on to Lauren goes on to say that she had to stop herself multiple times from suicide. The survivor's guilt that she felt from being alive, for taking medical care away from someone else definitely played into that. And she says, I still feel that to this day. Since becoming involved in a support group last April, and talking with mental health professionals, she was able to manage her guilt better. So she now sees the COVID-19 survival and recovery as a Russian roulette, which I think is crazy even to just publicly say, but it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. It doesn't matter if you were perfectly healthy or had a chronic illness. There's nothing more that you could have done, or anybody could have done or not done. She says, once you've come to this realization that you have no control over it, it's a little bit easier to take. So survivor's guilt is not a formally diagnosed condition, which also means definitions and interpretations can vary. But psychiatrists say that it could affect a subset of people who survive a deadly event. So anything from a war to a natural disaster,
that's what I was gonna say.
a serious illness like cancer. So,
and I feel like there's a little PTSD in there as well, like post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, I was about to say.
She didn't mention that in the article. I'm not trying to diagnose you, Lauren. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I know that if I was in that position, or if I was in her shoes, I feel a lot of empathy for the situation, because I would feel as if, I don't know, I would feel as if, like, why me and how me?
Yeah, which is kind of what she was saying too, because just like, why did I survive when so many other people are not surviving this? And
and I think with the whole idea around the post-traumatic stuff, it's like we're going through a whole, like, pandemic. Mm-hmm. Like, worldwide, millions of people are dying, and we have no idea where this COVID-19 coronavirus came from. Everything's a symptom. So at this point, you're constantly going to do COVID tests, because you sneeze and you think, I have COVID. Like,
I had strep and I had to go to a COVID test.
Exactly. So, I mean, everyone's so scared, and like,
a symptom.
Everything's a symptom. So this guilt, this new concept, or emerging concept of COVID guilt, I could see why people are feeling the way they're feeling, mm-hmm. because this is like completely uncharted territories for the world.
And because this is not like when, people around the world, obviously, people in general go through traumatic events on a daily basis. But when you don't go through a traumatic event on a daily basis, like, you don't think about survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt, and things like that. But now that the world has to deal with this on a daily basis, now that, CNN every day has a basically a body clock.
Yeah.
Who has it, who's died from it. Like, it's like the most traumatic thing. So I could see where, like you were saying, with PTSD and everything like that, where it comes in, like, it's basically like we're suffering somewhat of a natural disaster.
Yeah,
it's a natural disaster. Like,
unless they made it in a lab,
which we're not even gonna go there. But
it's a natural. Unless there's still the possibility.
Yeah,
we don't know where it's come from, guys. So let's not jump to conclusions.
Disaster, so.
Yeah.
So just continuing on the article, a professor of psychiatry named Nadine. Sorry, I was going to say Nadia. Nadine Kaslow. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Nadine Kaslow. She says that these people that suffer through these things feel this profound sense of guilt that often goes with other things, like feeling numb, not having an interest in life, social withdrawals. I'm going through it right now. Questioning their worth and values, feeling like they did something wrong. It can also have a physical manifestation, from insomnia and nightmares to headaches and stomach aches, she says. It's like they're being torn apart from the inside. In extreme cases, like Nicole's, it can even play into severe depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicide.
There we go. There it is. I knew it has to be in the article. Suicidality?
Suicide. Thank you. Suicidality. I'm like, this is a new way for suicide. I've never seen it written this way.
Suicidal ideation, suicidality, and suicide. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 terms.
So about 10 to 20% of people who live through a traumatic stress event, like a serious accident or an illness, have persisting mental health issues, which can include survivor's guilt, notes Mary Frances O'Connor, an associate professor of psychology at the University of Arizona, who studies loss and bereavement, which I didn't know was a thing. So
yeah,
she expects those rates to be similar for the pandemic, although it's still early days. She says we don't have.
Can you imagine? It's still early days.
That was a lot.
I'm like,
did you hear?
this whole thing is like, I know it was needed to be discussed because it's an interesting topic, but I just like, oh, COVID. Like, I'm sick of this already. But we're doing well. I think we're doing well. We're explaining it pretty well.
So in this article, they carry on to say that those suffering from survivor's guilt might not be able to put a finger on what precisely they're feeling, which can make it hard to get help. Even if the help is just talking about it with a trusted friend or relative or stranger who has gone through something similar. What we know about survivor's guilt is how it might be playing out in the pandemic. Psychologists and other researchers who have studied survivor's guilt for decades say the term rose to prominence. Yeah. Rose to prominence after the Holocaust, which completely makes sense because
6 million people.
Thank you. Since then, it has extensively documented amongst active duty combat veterans, survivors of events like 9/11 terrorist attacks, mass shootings, which we just had two in America within the last 3 weeks. Shout out to our cousins in America. You guys we're thinking of you, stay safe, and we love you. Yeah, and it's getting crazy because I think we've just been locked down inside. I think people are just going batshit crazy. Yeah, that's what's happening. Like it's the beginning. It's the beginning of it, definitely, especially if you want to keep people locked up for much longer. The everyday feeling of guilt and the effort to avoid it can serve an important social function. For example, it keeps us taking care of each other, says Nathanson. But after a major event that has killed people, those who escape death might wonder why they lived, but others didn't. Sorry, that's so odd to read. Why they lived, but others didn't. But after major events that had killed people, those who escaped death might be wondering why they lived but others didn't. It's pretty typical to have these thoughts cross your mind. These passing feelings could be one way to try to make sense of the ultimate randomness of death. Oh my gosh. As painful as it is, it can serve as a function of helping people feel that they're gathering a sense of control. However, if someone is not functioning well, it could be because the rumination, you got has complicated, which is mean overthinking. Yeah, has complicated the process of returning to a meaningful life. And clearly, survival's guilt doesn't affect everyone who lives through COVID-19 or any other deadly threat in their life. So, what makes people higher risk for experiencing it? Do you want to take a guess before we go? I think the state of their physical and mental health would be called into play. I think the severity obviously of the incident, and if we're talking about the pandemic, I mean, it's hard to say because you never really know until it happens how you're going to react to it and what you're going to do. Are you going to fight or flight? Are you going to, are you going to stand up and say, I'm not going to let this defeat me? Or are you going to let it defeat you? Like, I can't even imagine. I've been like the only thing I always say to myself, I just say it's a cold. Like I've done the proper precautions. I wear my mask, my PPE, et cetera, but I've convinced myself that it's a cold because if ever I get the virus, I'm gonna have that frame of mind that I'm battling a very, 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 very bad cold, and I need to take the necessary steps to make sure no one else catches it, and also that I do my best to get healthy. So I don't think for me that I would experience something like that unless it was like we both got it and I died or you died and I didn't or something. Like maybe then, but like I'm not thinking about. I know you were like I know you're just throwing out an example, but like really? No, but like
I'm just saying, like, it's an example. I'm not, we'll burn some sage afterwards to make sure it doesn't really happen. Like, it's fine.
Thanks.
But, like, I'm just saying, if a family member of mine, if there was to be, they had it, I had it, whoever had it, and they passed, I might feel guilty that I lived and they died. So,
which is fair.
Yeah, like, that's a fair. But I'm not thinking about the 1.97. What's how many people? Can you look it up, Elle, please? At this point in the world, have passed from COVID-19. Yeah, I'm not thinking about all of those people and letting that weigh my heart down. I feel empathy for them, obviously, but I'm not letting that weigh my heart down. It has to be someone super close to me. I think I veered off what the question was anyways, but
it was just so what makes people at a higher risk for experiencing it, if survivor's guilt. So in the article, it just says someone's social tendencies can make them more likely. So people who are prone to submitting their needs to those of others can be at a higher risk for experiencing it. A sequence of events can also trigger more intense survivor's guilt. For example, some of those affected learned. For example, some of those affected learned that they unknowingly infected relatives who died of the disease. Yes. This can set off more guilt and a feeling that they are responsible for a person's death. Experts caution that survivors typically have no way of knowing if they were infectious and shouldn't blame themselves based on the information they only received after the fact. So I guess that's where they tie in sideline guilt. So sideline guilt is when many healthcare workers have been feeling a gnawing emotion for thinking that they've brought this infection out into the world. Okay, because they deal with it on a daily basis in the ER. They're the frontline workers. Yeah, so that's like if I bought it home to mom and dad, I got it and bought it home. Death every day. Yeah. They see how much? 2.7 million people as of to this date have passed from the coronavirus. So. Another aspect they brought up in the article was that we know minoritized. Yeah, it's minority. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna screw this up. Marginalized. No, minoritized. Let me see it. It's one of those words that make your tongue move in a way it shouldn't move. I just want minoritized. I said it right? Yeah, it was like there's an extra I in there and the R, and I just wanted the Z. Like I hate Z's. They just put it in the middle. Z's the worst letter in the alphabet. So I knew. At least I know I. And I'm not fond of Y either. So we know minoritized communities are bearing the brunt of bereavement when it comes to coronavirus, and this is said through O'Connor. There's so many doctors in here. I hope everyone could follow along with all the doctors that I've said. But with the loss of disproportionately more family members and friends and substantially higher case numbers among minorities. This is so marginalized populations, BPOC population, which is the Black, Indigenous, people of culture populations. Yeah. These are what they're talking about when they say minoritized. Yeah. So many aspects of the pandemic can also make coping with these feelings even more difficult. For example, while guilt can spur the urge to take care of others, mandatory distancing and greater social isolation can make finding ways to do that harder. And without social connections, it's harder to find equilibrium again. I did say equilibrium, right?
Oh, sorry.
I know the word. I know how it's spelled. I know the word. I was very proud to say it. That's why I looked up at you when I said it. Sorry. Once again, and without social connections, it's hard to find your equilibrium again. Nathanson explains. When you're feeling guilty and you're feeling isolated, people tend to fare even worse. On top of that, she says, add the stark social justice issues that we've been experiencing, underscored by this pandemic's toll. Who doesn't have access to food and safe place to live? Who has to go to work without protection? And some survivors can feel even more intense guilt because of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just gonna wrap up this thing because it gets really in there about.
But I think we get it. We get it. Thank you, Vox.
I'll leave off with this. So for any of those finding themselves or others really struggling, they could reach out for help confidentially 24/7 to the treatment and referral helpline run by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
And here it's the National Suicide Prevention, just regular line, I think, in Canada.
In Canada. So.
I believe.
So, with that, I end it off. And we will start the next article with an opinion piece.
Opinion.
No, you didn't have to do
I didn't have to make a jingle?
No, you didn't have to.
I felt like it. I love O words, so I love the letter O. It's my favorite letter in the alphabet. I know I'm talking about the alphabet today. You know why? Because I had like 10 of my pens because I get these fancy pens from Staples, and I had like 6 of them, and they all ran out, so I had to go to Staples earlier. Mm-hmm. And then I was writing like to see if like the pens, like the last 2 were gonna work. Mm-hmm. I wrote out the alphabet, and one of them by the end of it wasn't working, so I threw it out. So that's how I tell if my pens are still working.
Oh my gosh! Back to my opinion piece.
That's a random side note.
So random. Back to my opinion piece.
So random.
So COVID-19 survivors' guilt is growing issue as the reality of loss settles in. So with 2.7 or 2, what was it that you said? Sorry, Al, it was 2.7, I believe. 2.7. Yeah, 2.7 million people dead. Oh, deaths. Sorry, that sounded kind of rough.
Yeah,
deaths. Sorry, that's my first 48. That's my 48-hour mystery.
Like 2.7
sorry.
dead.
Yeah,
it's death
happening. Yeah. So, in this article, they say people are eager to return to normal after a year of coronavirus. Who isn't? Come on.
Yeah, we're all tired.
But the U.S. But is the U.S. there yet? Hardly.
Hard pass.
The ongoing psychological and spiritual damage caused by the pandemic is raising too. So guilt and shame are 2 prevailing emotions surrounding COVID-19, and this guilt stems in part from the fact that anyone could be a potential carrier of the virus. So anyone then could unwittingly pass it to another person, which this is so real because I feel like this was like the first 6 months of COVID. Like everybody just felt like I could have it and not know.
Yeah.
And who am I passing it to? So
it's true.
Guilt can also arise when a person looks at the national and global death tolls, like we were saying earlier, and wonders how they were spared. I know how I was spared by the good Lord Jesus Christ.
Peaceful, protected, loved, blessed, and highly favored.
Why are you questioning God?
Peaceful, protected, and loved, blessed, and highly favored.
Guilt also happens when family members can't visit loved ones undergoing treatment at a hospital, or when someone with COVID-19 survives but reads about an infected stranger who died. This particular type of response is called survivor's guilt, which we know. But it's so intense because I still to this day don't understand how, like, I know why people can't go to the hospitals, like, for their loved ones, but like, just, I want to be like, I sound really inconsiderate saying, give them some PPEs and just let them see their loved ones. But like, I know.
Then everyone's going to want
running
to.
low. Yeah,
like,
I know.
We're running low on PPE. So
it's a lot. It's a lot to digest. So I guess that's where the survivor's guilt comes in for sure. As a as a psychologist and a doctor of emergency medicine, the author of this article, David Shizer.
That's a great last name. We're getting some great last names today.
I'm telling you.
Courage. Shiza.
He says that they have personal experience with patients suffering from survivor's guilt as they've watched loved ones succumb to COVID-19. And as the pandemic continues, they expect to see more. They say that survivor's guilt is complicated. Survivor's guilt can occur whether or not a person caused an event to occur. It can happen to a sole survivor of a plane crash who had nothing to do with the accident, or an intoxicated driver who crashed into a car and killed his passenger. They go on to say either way, the person feels that they were spared at that event where others perished, and the feeling of grief and anxiety can result. And survivor's guilt can affect up to 90% of its survivors when it comes to traumatic events. So, they go on to say that it's complicated because with survivor's guilt, there's conflicting messages from the federal and various states and local government the local governments haven't helped, because some leaders have suggested that COVID-19 is no worse than a flu. Millions of Americans do not wear masks, and by some estimate, not wearing masks could contribute to almost 130,000 deaths.
Yes.
So a person can spread COVID-19 without knowing they have the disease, which we already know. And this is uncertainty combined with loneliness that might have to lead to social gatherings that weren't the safest. Perhaps an elderly
Welcome to the ghetto, and I'm leaving. Sorry.
Perhaps an elderly parent decides to risk illness rather than spend the holiday alone. Many parents, including
why
they miss their grandchildren and their families and everything. I guess this is what happens. It's what happens when you separate people from their loved ones for a whole year. Some people could go a whole year without seeing their loved ones. Others see them every single weekend. Every single day. So it's tough.
It's tough.
It is.
I'm not diminishing anyone's feelings. I mean, it's hard. I'm fortunate to live with my parents and down the street from my sister, so I'm blessed. But I get it. I get it.
So, in the world of palliative medicine, there is no shortage of examples of patients choosing quality of life over quantity, sometimes refusing life-saving but invasive treatment so that they can spend time engaged in activities they might not otherwise be able to enjoy. This is not unusual at any age, and it's not all uncommon for people to make choices and that have potential tremendous costs from smoking to skydiving. So is someone who inadvertently passed along COVID-19 at fault? The example they use is, how do you cope with guilt when you know we passed the virus to a family member? Generally, people don't ascribe to this kind of blame. I want to say they meant subscribe, but it's ascribe.
Ascribe, I think you could say ascribe. Okay. But they mean subscribe, I think.
So to this kind of blame when they inadvertently pass the flu to someone who gets sick or perhaps even dies. We do not see countless news stories assigning blame when someone with the common cold does not wear a mask at the grocery store. We believe that people should be forgiving of themselves and should they accidentally transmit COVID-19. Self-forgiveness requires recognition that we cannot control everything and that our motives were benign.
I somewhat agree with that.
Yeah, to a point.
To a point, because if you are one of those people who are not wearing masks, are not social distancing, are not sanitizing your hands, your home, are not staying in your COVID bubble, are socializing, are any of the list of things that the Ontario government has instructed us to not do. If you're not staying at home, if I'm in my house, so whatever. But if you're not,
you can't be ignorant.
You can't be. Don't be ignorant.
Yeah.
So at that point, you absolutely should feel guilt if you ended up giving any number of family members the coronavirus. You absolutely.
A stranger. Well, you won't even care if it's a stranger.
If it's a stranger, but if it's your own family,
yeah.
I mean, come on. I agree with that to a certain extent. If you've done everything in your human power to make sure that you don't catch the virus and you're being responsible and you're taking into consideration others' lives, including your family and strangers, because it's everybody. We're into this together. We are not, nobody's an island in this right now. We're all experiencing this, right? So I just feel like after a year, there shouldn't be any debate as to whether or not you should or shouldn't be wearing a mask, or you should or shouldn't be doing certain things when it comes to COVID. So if you're feeling guilty because you know in your heart you didn't do the best you could to protect yourself and others, then yeah, go ahead. I'm cold-hearted. I'm in a cold-blooded. But yeah, like I just that was on my heart, and I needed to just get it out there.
Well, now that she's made you feel guilty, I will tell you how to deal with that guilt. So,
yeah, go ahead, B. Let them know.
Symptoms of survivor's guilt include anxiety, depression, headache, nausea, sleeplessness, and fatigue. It could lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, which we talked about earlier.
PTSD.
Favorite album, by the way, by Rod Wave.
Yeah, I was listening to the car. Shout out to Rod Wave. Shout out to Rod Wave. I know you're not listening yet, but you will be.
You will be, sir. You will be.
You will be, Rod Wave.
You're all about this.
You're all about the PTSD stuff, the mental health.
Managing survivor's guilt is an individual process, and what works for one may not work for all. Interventions that you could use include deep breathing, meditation, relaxation.
Insight Timer, guys. They're not sponsoring us, but I'll still give them a shout out for the meditation app.
Exercising, a healthy diet, journaling, adopting a hobby, getting a pet, watching comedies, and reaching out. So volunteering or engaging with family, co-workers, friends, and for some, spirituality and faith is also important. So they go on to just say that non-religious people may also find comfort in connecting directly with nature, where life and death are a part of a grand cycle, and nature itself may have its purpose that ordains when one person succumbs to another's while another survives. Sorry.
Yeah.
As people pass through the grieving process, healing comes by recognizing our interconnectedness with each other. But when the U.S. quarantined, many people lost their most basic and primal coping mechanisms. Instead, Americans, sometimes alone, have had to explore existential truths and may have been very painful and even devastating. Existential truths, and have been
to the ghetto.
Yet in many ways the country has already prevailed, and through mourning our loss and suffering, heartbreak, our medical, psychological, and spiritual well-being will remain strong. So that was beautiful.
I think piece. One of the things that I wish that opinion piece that explored a little bit more is the symptoms. Is the giving. Like, you don't know if you have it. So you're just walking around thinking like you're a walking COVID stick, and you're just giving people
but that's
COVID.
Striking fear in people. So they weren't going to put it in the opinion piece of an article.
That's true. Maybe. You're right.
It's striking fear. Like, we already have so much to deal with when it comes to COVID that But
that's the thing. Like, there are people that are very much worried about that they're walking around, they have it, they're a carrier. That's what I was talking about. The whole concept of asymptomatic and being a carrier. And you don't know if you're giving it or... And it's so vague and weird because you don't know why. This is what I'm saying. We don't know nothing about this shit. We don't know. We don't know about COVID.
Anything.
We don't know anything.
And with that even being said, we're going to go to our last article because
smooth transitions.
We know nothing of COVID. So why do you people think you know anything about a COVID vaccine? Let's get into it. Why you shouldn't feel guilty for getting your COVID vaccine. She don't feel guilty.
I don't feel guilty.
I sure as hell won't feel guilty because I'm not getting it. But that's neither here nor there. So this article.
So we're two opposing sides. We're on two opposing parties
in this conversation when it comes to the vaccine. Because like I'm not getting it. My children aren't getting it. Like, I'm sorry. I said the only COVID vaccine I'm gonna get is Johnson & Johnson, and it's because they make baby shampoo. That shit don't burn your eyes. That shit is magical. So they must know what the hell they're doing in the lab.
Johnson & Johnson. Amen.
They must know.
I got Pfizer. I got Pfizer.
Lab, okay?
I got Pfizer.
You can make soap not burn babies' eyes, adults' eyes. You're doing something right in your lab. I'll take your vaccine.
I got Pfizer, and the reason that was
one
good.
Shot. I want that one shot.
You want that one shot,
Johnson? I'm sorry, but yeah, you go on with your Pfizer.
No, I got the Pfizer, but mostly because like when I heard Pfizer, I thought of that like movie in the like late like 2010s or early 2010s with Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway, where they're both like pill salesmen, like, you know, those people that come into the doctor's office. Like, remember when we used to go to our doctor? The pharmacists, like, they're not pharmacists. They're not the pharmaceutical industry, basically. Yeah. It was about the pharmaceutical industry. They worked for Pfizer, and they had to push, I think it was like Viagra or something. Like, they had to push it to different, like, physicians' offices to get their commission. And they had this whole, and there was a whole love story. Like, there was a whole love story.
If you want it,
Elle, can you find that movie? It's with Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway.
You trusted a company that was the pusher man?
I'm your pusher man. Yeah. I gotta watch that movie again. Man. It's called something Dater. I can't even remember. Hilarious. Yeah, but go with your article, girl.
Yeah, so.
What?
End of watch?
No.
No, that's a cop one.
They're in bed together on the cover.
Oh, Love and Other Drugs?
Love and Other Drugs, yeah. Love and Other Drugs. Great movie. Anne Hathaway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jake Gyllenhaal, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew it. Anyways,
well, we're talking about this vaccine drug right now. So this article comes from Huffington Post.
Hey, Huff.
Shout out to Huffington Post as well.
I was in Huffington Post. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Of course. I'm just like...
I knew she was going to bring
I was in it. Yeah, so hey, Huffington Post Canada.
So... It's not Canada's Huffington
I'm just saying hi to Huffington Post Canada, though.
I'm just letting you know it's not Huffington Post.
It's a Huffington Post. What, UK or US?
US.
All right. It's not UK. It's .uk. Is it .com, .ca, or .uk? If it's a .org, I won't even mess with it. I'm joking.
Why you shouldn't feel guilty for getting your COVID vaccine. So here's what to do if you feel uneasy about receiving the coronavirus shot over other high-risk people, and why it's no one's business anyways. Whoa.
I like muy caliente. Julia Rise is muy caliente. Spicy.
So in many states...
Go on, girl. Spill the tea.
Securing a COVID-19 vaccination appointment is a messy process that requires hours of sitting next to a computer and refreshing the page until miraculously a free time slot for a vaccine opens up.
I like how you're reading this article.
I know.
You're really into it. Like, you're leaned on the chair. You're like, yes, final article. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it, guys. So, scooping up a much coveted vaccine appointment scooping up a much coveted vaccine appointment essentially comes down to luck. And when you're eligible to get vaccinated, you shouldn't feel guilty that you're one of the lucky ones who got through. So don't feel guilty.
I did for like a second.
Guilty. Don't feel guilty. If you're struggling deciding whether it's morally right to get the shot, when there's so many other high-risk people having difficulties booking appointments, know that you deserve the shot just as much as any other qualified person. You do.
You do.
You do. We all do. Like Oprah, you get a shot. You get a shot.
You get a vaccine, and you get a vaccine.
Okay? So it doesn't matter if you're eligible because of your age, a chronic medical condition like cancer, diabetes, or your BMI, or the fact that you smoke. If the system says it's your turn, you should feel guilt-free and confident knowing going to get the vaccine. By doing so, you're not only protecting yourself, but people in your community as well, which is the best pro of it all.
Exactly.
If we're being honest. But the cons, though. I won't even bring up the cons. You can go Google. Like, those news articles scared me.
Oh, gosh.
So, Here's why you don't need to feel guilty about getting the shot when it's your turn, and how to deal if you do feel uneasy. So COVID-19, as we've been saying this whole episode, is unpredictable. So COVID-19 is a confusing and variable disease. Though it's typically more severe in older people and those with chronic medical conditions, it also strikes younger people who are generally healthy. It even spares people who are categorized as being very high risk. There's no way to predict how the coronavirus will behave in any given person. So if you qualify, assume you have some level of risk and that the vaccine will provide some much needed and deserved protection. This is one of the toughest things about the virus. We haven't had the evidence and the data to really help us understand who might be most at risk for what, says Benjamin F. Miller, an adjacent professor at Stanford School of Medicine and chief strategy officer of Wellbeing Trust. We have learned that certain populations are more valuable, but it's not a simple or clear-cut algorithm. Because of this, it's hard to know who's the most exquisite risk, added Robert Amler, and the dean of the School of Health Sciences. I hate when they do that. The dean of the School of Health Sciences and Practices of this is such a long title.
Listen, when you're in university, let me tell you something about university. We need our titles in university. I don't have a BA, ladies and gentlemen. I got a BA honors. We are all about the titles.
Let me tell you, I know if I walk up to the school, the damn plaque on your door don't say the dean of the School of
Yes,
Health
it does.
Practice.
Yes, it does.
His whole title. I didn't even get through the whole thing. I didn't even finish.
Okay, go.
Dean of the School of Health Sciences and Practice at New York Medical College and former Chief Medical Officer at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Those are his two titles.
That's his resume, guys. He means business.
I would have.
What's his name?
Robert Amler.
Robbie means business. He means business.
I would have rather said how many.
Shout out to Robert and all his credentials.
Woodchuck could chuck wood. And
shout out to Robert and all his credentials. What does he have to say? I'm interested. Now I'm interested knowing who he is.
He says health officials have designated the tiers off of the best available evidence, and through criteria could change as we learn more about the coronavirus. There are real reasons certain types of people are eligible. I didn't even know this was an eligibility thing.
It is, because right now they're doing 75 and older.
I know for us, but clearly in America, it's something different.
They're doing tiers. They're doing tiers. Their system, I don't get it because
does your family history have cancer type of questions?
To get the vaccine, I registered as a mental health and addiction services worker, and then I got a date and a time, and I went to an ice rink. And it was so surreal because you go there, there's parking, there's signage. You feel like you're going to some kind of event. And you go in, they do the COVID screener with you. And then you show them your health card, you show them your pay stub, you show them your ID.
Exclusive show.
Yeah, it's exclusive. It's highly exclusive. But then I put my badge on because that's when I knew I felt guilt in that moment. Because instead of putting my badge away, because I was seeing a bunch of 75 and older people, they were just all old people there in that moment, during when I was there. Mm-hmm. I saw maybe one guy that was younger than probably maybe in his 50s, so he would have been a medical worker probably. Mm-hmm. But I could feel their eyes on me. I'm not even joking. So I'd caress my badge. I'd put it outside of my scarf so they'd see it. I'm a worker.
How'd you sneak in here?
Yeah, how'd you get in here, young lady? You must be knee highs to a grasshopper's tail.
Well, let me tell
you can't be that old.
Amler says once you are eligible, you are legitimate as anyone else who is eligible.
I am legitimate.
So don't let them look at you and grill you so.
Honestly, I felt, that's when I felt like guilt, because then I started thinking about mom and dad and all our older relatives, and
but
like
they're of age, so like they could attempt to register and get it. They're just, if in all honesty, like our parents are probably waiting for that like third dose to come out.
Yeah,
sure the first two were solid.
And they've got a guinea pig.
Yeah,
they got a guinea pig in me.
Right in the
just
house.
So you know, I just got a bump on my arm. It hurt for a day, and then after that, I was fine.
Which is any vaccine normally.
Yeah, that's normal.
I'm strong in this because I don't even take the flu shot. I've only taken the flu shot twice in my life, and it's when I first had my firstborn daughter, and the next year after I just had her because she was a baby, like she was susceptible. But my second born's born in March, so like she's so far from winter that like like I didn't even. I'm like, no, she's fine.
The only one thing I could say that troubled me about the experience, which is goes back to why I was a little hesitant, more than a little hesitant, if I'm going to be honest. I was of your stance. I wasn't going to take it. Like, I wasn't going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nope, you could draw blood out of me, but you're not putting anything in me. I might want to have children one day. I'm afraid my babies are going to be deformed. Like, I went to the nth level of, like, what could happen with, like, the side effects. Like, nobody's told us side effects, really, of this vaccine. Like, they're saying headaches and dizziness, because they don't really know. So, listen, I had to make up, as a bipolar woman who literally had a flesh-eating skin disease from a pill one time, like, I'm really anxious about, like, I have a lot of anxiety around side effects of medication.
She has that, and then I'm always the person that's like 1 in 100 when it comes to medication. Like, I'm the 1 in 100 person that when I go to a doctor and tell them, oh, I'm having this symptom from this medication, they're like, well, that's not right. That's like very rare. And I'm like, well, I'm a rare ass bitch. Like, that's why I get rare things. So sorry. Like, what?
Like, I got pneumonia at like 32. I got like this flesh-eating skin disease. Like it was just called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. And like, honestly, like I'm afraid of the side effects. And like I said, I'm 38 years old. Like, I'm going to another like venture in my life, a new adventure. And that might include having children. So my biggest freak out is like, I've always like protected my womb. So it's like my biggest freak out is like, what if like later on down the line something happens to a child that I have based on the like vaccination? And there's so many like clauses and different things that like you wouldn't be able to sue or do anything or like whatever.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I can't live my life on what ifs because the baby doesn't exist, but my job exists. And the fact that my job exists,
your ovaries exist.
My ovaries exist, so babies are in me, but like my job exists, and the people that I'm come in contact with every single day, like at work, in regards to not every day because we work remotely, but they, you know, my clients, the people that I have to interact with, I need to think about protecting. My coworkers, I need to think about protecting. My parents, my sister, my family. Like, I need to think about outside of myself when it comes to this vaccine. And I need to take the risk, because what if me getting the vaccine leads to other people in my family getting the vaccine when it comes their time, because they've seen what little effect or what, you know what I mean, like side effects or whatever might have on me. You know, so they might decide.
Mom and dad might get it in that respect.
I think dad will get it. I think dad's getting it. He wants to live long. He wants to live long.
Travel bug, okay?
Like, my dad needs to go to New York ASAP, so he's getting it immediately.
He needs a plane, car, train,
automobile,
anything.
I don't care how you get there, just get here if you can.
Like, he just, it's.
You can meet me by airplane.
Personally, I know I'm only getting Johnson and Johnson. So
like, this girl, don't you love how in Canada you could be that selective? Like, I'm sorry, I don't want, like, it's Starbucks. Like, you think the vaccine, honestly, the vaccine is going to be like ordering at Starbucks. You're going to go to a clinic and be like, hi, can I get one Johnson & Johnson, please? Can I get a side of Pfizer? Can I also maybe
get... Is that your first dose or second?
It's my second dose. Do you have a one doser? Because I'm not interested in 2 shots. I'm interested in a shot of macchiato.
One shot.
Like, and can you get my coffee with that as well? Thanks, Starbucks. Like, that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be like, yeah, can I just get a shot of like the vaccine?
We bypassed our whole Canadian Tim Hortons. Sorry, guys. We're like, you guys aren't bougie enough. You guys are too nice.
Yeah, you guys don't cater to our every women fancy like Starbucks does.
So just going off of what you said too, to close up this article, it says, if you continue, because you were like, people are giving you glares. So it's like, if you show up and you feel like you're catching glares from other people, remember it's your turn.
It's my
your
turn. It was my turn.
Fair and square, and no one else's business. What qualifies you for the vaccine? Okay, so
Nobody's business.
You don't need to whip out your tag and say, "Hey, I work in the healthcare profession." You don't need to do that. It's nobody's business but your own. Okay,
Girl, go on, girl.
When you get that second
Get
dose,
it.
you
Go
walk
get
into your
it.
head held high.
I will. July.
Boat.
Coming in July.
Like-
Coming July 13th.
So
Yeah,
you should
so
just
I'm
be
going to walk in there with
confident.
my head held high and be like, yo, I know you're 75 and I know I'm 38, but at the end of the day, like, I'm an essential worker, so.
You don't need to tell them that. But just mind your business.
Just mind your business. That's all. Just mind your business.
If you continue to feel guilt after getting the vaccination, consider doing something about it. If you got an appointment because you're tech savvy, consider helping other older people in your community who might not know how to work a computer to get an appointment. Attend a virtual meeting in which you can advocate for certain at-risk groups or talk about your experience, like how old it is, which can improve the process of the vaccination for others. Your voice is a powerful tool, says Miller. That's how that article closes.
What are your final thoughts?
I'm sorry, I lied. You're likely to find there are a lot of people out there who feel the exact same way as you. Oh, I said exact same way, and that's not.
That is not
'cause
proper English.
It's written that way.
Yeah,
It's
that is
written
not
that
proper
way.
English.
Not proper.
Exact and same are the same thing. So use exact or same.
Okay.
And don't do it in my mama's house because if you do, she will correct you.
So there is nothing more therapeutic than being in the same boat with other folks and experiencing things together.
That's nice.
That's how that ends. Now we're done.
Okay, so
My
how's your?
today.
Give me your final dish.
My final dish is I feel no guilt because I'm a homebody.
I thought you were gonna say you were something else.
I'm a homebody. I'm a homebody. So I feel no guilt. I'm always home. I only visit, mom and dad and stuff. 'Cause
During your COVID bubble.
During my COVID bubble. Yeah, they still are my COVID bubble, even though I'm not there. So like, yeah, I feel no guilt, and I will feel no guilt with the vaccine because I'm not getting it. And if anybody does though feel guilt, as that Huffington article said it perfectly, it's nobody's damn business but your own, and you shouldn't feel guilty because it's your turn. So take your turn and cost it what it may, and ride
what
the
may,
wave.
yeah, ride the wave.
The wave,
Ride the wave. Ride that bitch till the wheels fall off.
I'm waiting for Johnson & Johnson.
Actually, like that. My final thought is I'm waiting for Johnson & Johnson. What's your final thought, Onika?
So I just have to, I don't know if Johnson & Johnson's listening. I don't know if Procter & Gamble is listening to our podcast, but
they aren't yet, but they will be.
Do not make me to look like a jackass. Do this right, because if I get this Johnson & Johnson and drop out, I'm gonna be very upset. So just do right by me right now. Just do right by the people that believe in your science, your soap not burning eye science. Oh, how do you feel? Close it out.
Final dish for me is honestly like I did feel guilt in that moment, but then I was like, you know what? I'm risking my life every single time I go to work. Because I'm out in the community dealing with my clients, and so I'm not only risking my life, I'm risking my family's life as well. And so I couldn't in good conscience not take the vaccine, knowing all that I had thought about and reflected on. And I just feel like when it comes your turn, and like when it comes your turn, really sit down with yourself and think about outside of yourself and the people that you are connected to and the people that are going to be affected by your decision. Because like I said, nobody's an island right now. We're all in this together. And if we're going to stop this virus from spreading even further and getting worse, we all need to do our part. So, as the Hunger Games would say, may the odds forever be in your favor. Literally. So, if
I
you
still think the Will Smith movie is going to come to pass.
Which one?
The one where it's him and his dog and everybody.
I Legend. Oh Lord.
And it was based in 2021.
Oh
Lord.
It happened after a vaccine. Movies are based on real life, so like it's possible. It's possible.
People, but I've seen people make this comment, and then I'm like,
don't bring your conspiracy theories on my show, please.
I'm like, I'll be in that thing that was locked up. at the end of the movie where they found the people that were okay drinking fresh water, I'll be in there.
You'll be in there.
I'll be in there.
Drinking the Fiji water.
I'll be there.
Yeah, but if you want to just hit us up, shout us out in the DM, or you want to talk about just like your thoughts on COVID guilt related to either survivor's guilt. If you are a survivor yourself and you're feeling guilty and you need some encouragement, just hit us up. Let us know what you're feeling, what's going on with you. Give us the dish.
Yeah, just what she said.
How can they reach us?
So if you'd like to reach us, you can send us an email at dysh@daintydysh.com. So that's dysh@daintydysh.com. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts,
505.
And if you're listening to us on any other streaming services, thank you so very, very, very much. Continue to listen, like, share, and subscribe to us. And if you want to get a hold of us on the IG, you can get a hold of us collectively at Dainty Dish Podcast. So that's DAINTYDYSH PODCAST. And if you want to get a hold of us individually, my IG is That Mother Bad XO. So that's THATMUVABADXO. And if you want to get a hold of Onika's, hers is
Best of Onika. That's BESTOFONIKA. And if you want to get a hold of Ellie, who's been in the house the whole time doing the side research, they heard him. It's .LOITS.ELLO. And if you want to get a hold of T,
hers is Honey T. So that's HONEEYTEE. I believe there's no dot. I always add a dot.
No,
she's not here to correct me. So
yeah, hi TT.
We miss you.
We miss you this week.
And I believe that's it. Oh, and then Twitter. Is your name
Onika Dainty.
And the TikTok, which I won't be getting back on.
The tick and the talk.
I know. I haven't been entertaining my people like I should be. The TikTok is the same as my IG. I'm plugging in the YouTube soon, so prepare for the things, yo. Prepare for the things.
You are so ridiculous.
People are gonna like the YouTube. You think I'm funny now?
You're so ridiculous.
You can't wait to see me on the YouTube.
I'm gonna start calling you Yonko Madonko Rodonko. That's your nickname from now on, Rodonko. Anyways.
I'm redonkulous.
Anyways, all right. That has been the dish of the day. I hope y'all have yourselves a very, very, very happy holiday.